This is the No More Wasted Days podcast, and we're your hosts, Sarah Kaufman Bradstreet
and Heather PG. Grab your favorite NA drink and listen as we share vulnerable stories so you never feel alone on your alcohol-free journey.
And gain insights from us as we break down our most used tips and strategies that have kept us alcohol-free.
It's time to break free from wasting any more of your days to the drinking, blackout, hangover cycle.
Welcome to another episode of the No More Wasted Days podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Sarah.
I'm Heather.
And today we are talking to Laura Van Antwerp. Laura, did I say your name correctly?
You sure did.
Awesome. So Laura is the founder of Your Sober Pal and YSP Adventures, which is short for Your Sober Pal Adventures. And I had the most amazing time on her sober adventure treat this year to Lake Tahoe. And also just, it was so cool to meet Laura in person because she was one of the very first sober content creators that I started following when I did this. I started way back in like 2020, maybe 2019. And all of a sudden I saw Laura on TikTok and I was like, there are other crazy people sharing their crazy drinking life stories. And there she was. So I'm so excited for her to talk all about the YSP Adventures today because she's going to be opening enrollment to all of her retreats that you can go on. And I cannot recommend them enough. I just got so much more closely connected to my sobriety when I was able to be with a group of other women on the same journey. And it was just amazing. It's like I earned 12 new best friends when I did this. So are you ready to go for this, Laura?
Let's go for it.
All right. Heather's going to do the first question and then we'll alternate for you. And you get to do most of the talking today, Laura.
All right. So it's lovely to have you on the show, Laura. Welcome. I am really curious about how you got sober and your story and how your Sober Pal evolved, so to speak.
Well, thanks. That's a great question. And thanks for having me on the podcast, ladies. And I do want to throw in real quick before I answer that Sarah helped with the workshops at the retreat and was absolutely amazing. And so I just wanted to point out how amazing you were and how much your presence was valued. And it's probably a testament to No More Wasted Days because you're an amazing leader. But to speak to the question, a little bit about my story. Try to keep this short and sweet, but I grew up in a very, I would say, sheltered environment. And for most of my memories growing up, I just recall feeling very like unseen. You know, I had like the glasses, the braces, and kids like made fun of me and I was bullied in school. And so growing up, I just felt very, like I just never felt accepted. I never felt loved. I never felt like I was enough. And so I do remember when I discovered alcohol, I was like, oh my gosh, this is the magic potion to confidence. This is the ticket to being accepted and being loved by my peers. You know, I didn't have my first drink until I was actually 18, but then it was off to the races after that. And, you know, I started drinking quite heavily right out the gate. I was definitely a binge drinker. I'm definitely an all or nothing kind of person. And so shortly after that, I went to college. I was a party girl, but I think not only was I intoxicated by, I think, alcohol, I think I was intoxicated by like having friends and making friends easily after it was so hard growing up. And so yeah, I mean, it's really snuck up on me. You know, when you're in college, you don't really think twice about the way you party and the way you drink because everybody around you is doing it. And then after college, I moved to a ski town. And anybody who's lived on a ski town or a beach town knows it's like college 2.0. And so it was, you know, my drinking really started to spiral. And it was around my late 20s when I started to notice like the wheels were really starting to fall off. I got an extreme DUI. I got demoted at work. And like the consequences of my drinking really started to catch up to me. I think more so though than the consequences had an impact on me was just this deep down knowing that alcohol was blocking me from my potential and from my own inner peace and my own happiness. Like just waking up feeling like crap day after day, and then feeling sorry for yourself, which is another thing I think drinking really creates a lot of. I just got tired of it. And so yeah, so I went through a big, I kind of call it like my relapse phase, where I was on the wagon, off the wagon, trying to moderate. Then I was like, okay, I'm gonna quit forever, but then I couldn't stay quit for more than a few days. So that went on for a few years. And then finally I took my last drink on August 1st of 2017. It's a little over 7 years ago. And it's just been an amazing journey ever since. And one of the things that's I really dove into in sobriety was the outdoors and adventure and connecting with people in nature instead of in bars. And it really revolutionized like my life, and I just felt so much more connected with myself and with the people I was hiking with and just with life in general. And I remember I had a little moment where I was like, I want to like create more of this in the world, and the world needs more levity, and the world needs more nature. And so that's kind of what inspired me to start Your Sober Pal, which I started over COVID, and then YSP Adventures a few years after that.
Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing that and for what you do. I can't wait to hear more about it.
Yeah, I hear so much of your story in my story, or I hear my story in your story. I think that's how it is when we hear other people's stories of quitting drinking. But when you talk about the not fitting in, that was so me. And it's so interesting to me now because I have this amazing sober community, and every sober person I meet, it's like an instant friend. Who knew that the thing I was using to create this community was actually repelling me and bringing me farther away from my true people? But I was going to ask you how you came to create Your Sober Pal and YSP Adventures, but you actually answered it in that question so nicely. And I was going to ask you if you could take us back to your first retreat that you hosted and kind of explain what a retreat is, because I bet people don't, when we're saying it, they're like, what is it really? And what was that experience like for you when you hosted your first retreat and for the participants?
Yeah, so I had been doing Sober Pal for a few years at that point, and I was sharing a lot about what my lifestyle looked like in sobriety, and I was sharing a lot of my adventures that I was going on. So it'd be like hiking, backpacking, and just sharing all the downloads I had while I was out there and all the fun that my girlfriends and I had. And I had so many followers say, I really like want to learn how to do that, or I want to try that, but I don't know where to start. And would you ever organize something? And, it was so funny because I don't think I would have ever done it had so many followers not requested it, because I don't know, I just don't think I have the confidence. And so I organized my first, I want to call it a meetup. I couldn't even really call it a retreat, but I call it a meetup. Basically, just saying, if anyone wants to meet up, let's split the cost. We'll meet up in Austin, Texas, and I'll get a campground, and we'll rent like some Sprinter van or some tents, and we'll hang out for the weekend. And a whole group of girls came out from all across the country, and it was like you said, Sarah, like we had known each other our whole lives, like
Yeah.
instant best friends. And I was like, I just remember in the moment being like, oh, wow, like this is really, really special. Like there's something here. And I could just really feel the magic. And I had actually been to like a meetup when I was in an online sobriety community called CASARE, like way back, I think 2016. And I remember that trip being really, really special too. So I had kind of had a taste in the past. So yeah, the following year, I decided to try it again. And I did it the meetup style again. But that's when I realized that it was just too much work to just be doing like for free, because it was like we were all splitting the costs. I wasn't like you know what I mean? So then I decided to start the business where I would actually try to compensate myself for the amount of time and energy I put into them. So then YSP Adventures was formed last year. And that's the first year I started doing it kind of for profit, I guess you could say. But it has just been such a beautiful experience as far as like getting women together, improving the experience year over year, and just seeing the way their faces light up when they have an epiphany or they feel their story and someone else's story during Share Circle. It just has been such an amazing, beautiful experience. And I'm so grateful. And then, I started Backpacking 101, which is like an intro to backpacking course this year. And that's been a huge hit as well. So I'm just so excited to be able to bring more connection, adventure, and laughter through these retreats and courses.
Yeah. Oh, I can't believe that you say that your first one was a meetup and you went all the way to Austin, Texas, because you're in Nevada. It's like, that's crazy to me that you're just like, oh, this feels more casual and won't stress me out as much. Like, that sounds uber stressful. I'm a plan lady. But I'm so glad you did it because it is just such a cool thing. And like, I can't tell people enough, like, how amazing the experience is. It's just, and we all stay connected too. Like, you create little pods for all your retreats so all the women can stay connected, and it's just a really cool thing.
Laura, what would you say is one lesson or something that you learned over the past 7 years that you carry on to your sober adventure retreats?
I think the biggest thing I've learned and realized is, when I tried to get sober at first, I tried to do it by myself, and I think a lot of us we don't want to burden other people with our problems, quote unquote, or we're scared to be vulnerable about our struggle. And it was really lonely. It was a really lonely thing. And it's also just so hard to do it by yourself. And it wasn't until I found a community in this, like, found sober community, that not only was it easier to stay sober, but my sobriety and my recovery just felt so much more rich, like rich with laughter, rich with connection. I just felt supported and uplifted, and I just felt like I was being cheered on in my journey. And I was always just inspired by other people's wisdom. And so I really learned the importance of community and connection in recovery. And that's honestly like the number one, that's the foundation of my retreats and my courses, is helping women find community and connection through these retreats. And underneath that, laughter and adventure are just like two values of mine. I really believe, like, our recovery doesn't have to be this like heavy drag. It can be this like funny and uplifting experience. Like, you're basically like learning how to live all over again. So you're like a pimply faced teenager figuring out how to like navigate the world. And there's just like a lot of, it's just funny. And so that's been a big value of mine in recovery. And of course, adventure just helps us, like, we drank shots of tequila. Why? Because we wanted to have this sense of like adventure, and I want to feel like I am spontaneous and fun. And I'm like, there's other ways to do that are healthier and actually like nurture your soul. And so that's what I found in nature and adventure. So those are kind of the main principles underneath why I created YST Adventures.
Awesome. That's so awesome. And I think like remembering to laugh at yourself, no matter what you're going through, is so key. I crack myself up just by myself. I do, like, when I'm really spastic, and Sarah knows. Golly. So I think that laughter part is so key.
And the key to like laughing, not laughing at your journey, but being able to have this sense of humor about your past drinking self, that is so freeing to me. And it's so funny because I'll try to carry that over to normies, and I'll kind of joke about stupid shit I did when I was drinking, and you can tell they're like, but if you share it with somebody who's in recovery, they're like, oh yeah, I've been there too.
It's so true. I always say, like, always take sobriety seriously, but don't take yourself too seriously. And so, like, bringing levity just helps you, like, I don't know. It's just, I really believe that laughter heals.
Mm-hmm.
And so it can really be a big part of your healing journey and recovery.
Yeah, definitely. So, how do you make your retreats be inclusive for women on all different levels of their journey? Because we had people on our retreat who had literally, like, I think were just 30 days into their journey, and some were many, many years into their journey, but we all were able to be connected in some way. So, do you think that that's something that you consciously do, or it's just kind of the sobriety world? How do you foster that inclusivity?
I just opened it up to people who wanted to come, right? And it wasn't even women only. And so, like, the second year we had a guy on the retreat, and I think we were all like, uh-oh, but he ended up becoming like a big brother to us, and he would like protect us at the beach. And so it was really special, and also to learn from his experience as well. But I really realized how beautiful it is to have a diverse group of women in one place. And I think I really had that download at my whitewater adventure retreat this last July. We had women from like, I think mid 20s to their like mid 60s on this
Wow.
whitewater retreat. Yeah. Who were like doing this whitewater adventure because I wasn't sure who would be into this. And I had the whole range, like all ages, all like backgrounds, all different recovery paths. Some people are in 12 steps, some people are doing it like through online communities. And I remember we were laying out under the stars. We had an overnight camping portion of the 2-day retreat of the 2-day whitewater rafting trip. And we were all just like laying out there giggling like a bunch of teenage girls. And I was like, I think part of me was like, oh, I don't know how it's going to work with like this age range, but it was like we were all in our hearts, like we were all the same, and like we all like related so much to our sober journeys and our paths, and we were learning from each other, but we were also like giggling and like making up the same little inside jokes. And I was like, oh my gosh, we are all just like a bunch of 18-year-old girls at heart. And I had that like epiphany on the retreat. And so, yeah, I just love having the whole gamut of like women. It's so beautiful to see us all connect through recovery and find that bond, regardless of like size, shape, like background, religion, whatever. It's really, really beautiful to watch. And it's just so nourishing to experience.
Yeah. It really is. I feel like maybe sobriety is the thing that really does bring us all together when we're in a group like that, and all of a sudden age doesn't matter. Because I was thinking about that too. I'm like, I don't even know the age of most of the women that we were with because it just really didn't even matter. And even the same with like how many sober days did people have? That didn't matter either. It was really that drive to want something better for yourself. And to also, it's like how you were saying too, when you are sober, it's like you're a brand new pimply adolescent you learning how to live. Maybe that's what it is. We all get together and it's just like, this is amazing.
Totally.
So, Laura, I am an indoor cat. It's a true story.
Love it.
Obviously, it's a true story, but I want to become an indoor outdoor cat. It's like on my bingo card for 2025. Why do you think nature is so important in recovery?
Well, much love to the indoor cats. They're just as special. But I will say, and it's so funny because I notice a lot of the girls that come to the retreats, like they're getting their toes dipped into nature. So usually the retreats are good because they have a cabin and you can stay behind when you want to. But it is really cool to see people who aren't in nature as much, the way it impacts them. And, you know, last year at the Tahoe retreat, or no, in the Idaho retreat 2 years ago, I had a couple people from LA who came out, and we did this like short little hike, like similar to the one we did, Sarah, to Eagle Lake. We had something similar to that where we hiked to an alpine lake, and I could just tell like they didn't really spend much time in nature, right? And for me, I'm like, this is like my daily. Like, I'm like, oh yeah, 1.5 mile hike, no big deal. They were like, oh my gosh, oh, this is so beautiful. And I was like, they were like 7 years old again. There was just this childlike awe and wonder in their eyes, and this sense of like accomplishment when they got to the lake. And then they like went swimming in the alpine lake, and you could just tell they felt like free with it, like one with nature. And I mean, it was such a gift. I felt like I was experiencing nature for the first time all over again through their eyes. And I remember thinking, man, there really is something special here, and I don't know what that is. And I just think like nature really brings you into the present moment in a way other experiences may not be able to quite as effectively. And it just brings out in you this sense of childlike awe and wonder, and like anything is possible. And I think a lot of times when we were drinking, we were kind of chasing that. Because I know for me, like that first glass of wine, I would be like, oh my gosh, like anything's possible. And like I felt so powerful, and like the world just felt like it was my oyster. And I feel that same way when I'm out in nature. And to be quite honest, I don't know what it is. I don't really understand it. And I would like to understand it a little bit better. And I know there's a lot of research behind it, but it's just really, really special. And you come home like when you come back from spending time in nature back to your regular life, it's like you have all this new clarity. You have all these like new creative solutions to things you were struggling with before. Things that you were like spinning on suddenly don't matter and they just like fall away. And it's just like really, really special. And so that's part of what I want to share with more people in recovery.
Us indoor cats need it. We all need it. So thank you for sharing that with us. And if it feels like the magic of booze, for lack of a better expression, I will definitely give it a whirl. A more intentional whirl.
You'll be there. I love it.
Yeah.
I'm excited for you. You should put it on your vision board for this year.
Ooh, that's a good idea.
Yeah. And you don't have to do like anything super crazy because like my backpacking course is like too much for some people, right? Like we're spending 2 nights camping, we're hiking out 3 miles and we're spending, you know what I mean? It's a lot for some. And so like, but maybe spending a walk every day. Like earlier this year, I remember being like, I want to spend more time outdoors. And so I went from meditating in my office to meditating in my backyard. I went on more walks behind my house. And even that made me feel so much more at ease and just made me feel more like clear about how to go through my day. So yeah, like doses, you can dose it up.
Okay, I can do that.
I like that. That's like a huge recommendation for people too, because I think people, especially us drinkers that like to go big or go home, are like, oh my God, the only way to do this is to start rock climbing today. And I don't want to do that.
Totally.
So instead it's
Exactly.
like, no, you can just go for a walk. That's totally allowed. So take those baby steps for sure. So what is this is probably going to be really hard to answer. What's one of the most memorable or inspiring moments from one of your retreats?
Well, that one memory I just mentioned with all of us girls sleeping under the stars. We were like on a deck and it was all ages and we were just giggling.
Yeah.
And that was a core memory. And we watched the moon rise over the mountain together. And it was so good. It was so good. I was like, this is a core memory. You know what, Sarah? Us sitting around the fire that last night on the Tahoe retreat and we were sharing our stories. That night was probably another core memory for me from any of my retreats. Like that group in particular was like so vulnerable and like so open, but like so uplifting and loving. And just to be able to share our truths so raw and vulnerably and with like so much love, surrounded by so much love, with like a fire in front of us and the stars above us and the trees blowing around us. Like that I think was another core memory for me. And I just appreciate so much when people are willing to like open their hearts and when everyone around them is willing to just surround them with so much love and say, you are perfect. You're enough right as you are right now. And I'm always just so inspired by like the amount of strength and like what these amazing women have overcome in their recoveries. Like
Yeah.
it just is so beautiful to observe. And I just always feel so grateful.
Yeah, that is an amazing thing. And having like the thing that you explained with the white water, like the moon coming up, I'm like, oh my gosh, that sounds so amazing. I have to learn how to stay up late enough in the summertime to experience that.
Totally. We can do a winter one where we watch the moon rise at 4.
That's the only way I was ever going to see the Northern Lights. Everybody kept seeing them like in the summertime. And I'm like, how people are up at 10? What's everybody doing?
Right? No way.
When they were finally out in the winter, I was like, this is my moment to see them through my phone, which wasn't as exciting as I thought it was going to be, which is a bummer. But all right, Heather, I'll let you take away the next question.
So, how do you come up with the unique ideas for your trip? Like Sarah had mentioned sound baths and a pontoon ride. I'm assuming that's a pontoon boat.
Yeah, it is a pontoon boat. Every year I learn something new about how to help people connect and have fun. And I don't know, for me, like I want to have activities that offer a combination of like adventure, also opportunities to bond and laugh together, but also opportunities to connect more deeply with ourselves. And I guess you could say our spirituality or our mental health. And so those are kind of the things I'm thinking about when I'm organizing the activities. I try to do like one big adventure per day. So the first day I did a hike, for example, the Tahoe retreat. The first day we did a hike The second day, we did a day on the beach with some kayaking and paddle boarding. And then the third day was a pontoon ride. And I try to start with like the highest level of activity on the first day and then going down from there so that by the last day, it's like a fully relaxing day where we're just like relishing in our accomplishments and like all the things that we've tackled together over the week. And then, the workshops, the workshops were actually something new that I brought on this summer. And Sara led a lot of the workshops we had. And I'm, that is for sure something I'm going to keep doing moving forward because that really helped the group connect in a way I don't think would have been possible otherwise. And I think really helped people get clear about what they really want in their recovery and their sobriety and in their life. And I thought it was so cool to do that work together and to share. And now we like stay in touch to be like, how are you guys doing on your 3-month goal, 6-month goal? And it's so cool to like stay in touch and updated on these things. And so yes, I'm always kind of brainstorming. It always depends on the area we're in. In 2025, we're going to be doing some retreat. We're doing a retreat in the Pacific Northwest, and then we're also doing a retreat on the East Coast. And so, I'm doing a lot of research as to like what are the bucket list activities to do in these areas, and what's available in our region. So it's always a learning curve for me, but it's really, really fun.
Yeah, I loved the mix of the adventure with like the spirituality side, the personal development side. But yeah, it really is. It brings you together in so many ways because that adventure spirit and then time to actually have those downloads, as you call them. And I love that you call them that. I'm always like, ooh, that's such a good way to explain it. But what has been your favorite retreat to host, or what type of retreat is your favorite one to host? Because you have your backpacking 101 and the whitewater rafting trip. I don't know if you'll have that again, or something more like the Sober Tahoe trip where it was a mix, I guess.
Oh my gosh. I don't know. Okay, so when I had the whitewater retreat, I was like, this is my favorite retreat ever. And then I did backpacking 101 and I was like, this is my favorite thing. And then I did the Tahoe retreat and I was like, this is my favorite retreat. It's like every single one is like just as good as the last. So it's so hard. Like they all have something really special to offer. I really liked about Whitewater that like it was a bunch of us willing to try something really challenging together because almost all these women were doing it for their first time. And so we were doing it for our first time together. And like there was just something really special and bonding about that. But also backpacking is my life passion. And so to be able to teach that and see women like the way their hearts and eyes light up when they finish their backpacking trip and how excited they are to like go on a longer trip and they're making plans to go together next summer. And so yeah, I don't know, it's tough. Like the Tahoe retreat was so special. So I don't know. I don't know if I could choose a favorite right now. Each one just has something so special and unique about it. I will say this though. So I used to like try to do day like meetups that are just like for 2 hours during the day, like a day hike. And I think I'm gonna bring back in 25. But like for me, I don't really like doing stuff like that because I realize like I crave deep connection. And I crave that like summer, like feeling like I'm at summer camp with my new besties. And I feel like that can only really be nurtured when you're spending multiple days together and you're sharing those small moments, like where you're sipping coffee together in the morning or you're cuddled up on the couch, like in between activities and you're just like chatting. And I just feel like these networking mixer type things don't offer those little opportunities. And so for me, I remember being like, I don't think I'm ever going to really put a lot of effort into doing like networking daytime activities because I just feel like it's like really superficial interaction. And I just am not, it's not for me. Like I like deep, hearty, vulnerable connection with people that where I feel like I've known them my whole life. And so that's typically what I want to aim for and what I want to nurture.
Yeah. So it's like every retreat is your favorite retreat as long as it's multiple days.
Multiple days. Yeah, exactly.
I like it. I totally accept that answer.
I think that's so awesome that you like know that and are vulnerable enough to share that. That's amazing. You had mentioned some things that you have on 2025, like the Pacific Northwest retreat, East Coast retreat. Do you have any other things brewing? And if so, when can we enroll? Tell us.
Yeah, so far I'm still working on the 2025 lineup And so far, we have confirmed we're going to be doing a Pacific Northwest Rainforest Adventure Retreat. We're doing a retreat in the Smoky Mountains of Tennessee. We are going to bring back the Whitewater Adventure Retreat. And then we're also bringing back the Lake Tahoe Adventure Retreat, which I would say is our most popular retreat. That one books out like in 24 hours. And then I'm also looking into potentially hosting our first international retreat in Patagonia.
Oh, wow.
Yes.
That is so cool, Laura.
That's a huge bucket list for me. And that's going to be one of the more like high level, like more like people need to have like a certain level of outdoor knowledge and experience to go on that one. But I want to be able to offer something for people at all levels of like adventure. And then, of course, I'm bringing back Backpacking 101, but we're going to bring back the Intro to Backpacking course for just 2 or 3 courses. And then we're going to bring guided backpacking trips. So like multi-day guided backpacking trips. And we're still working on the permits for that, but we're looking into either like Yosemite or Smoky Mountains of Tennessee while we're out there. So a lot coming down the pipeline. I'm so excited.
I want to go on every single one. I'll be there. So when are you going to be opening enrollment?
We open enrollment in January of 2025. Itineraries are dropping next week. So people will be able to see and research the retreats next week. And then enrollment, where they can apply to come to the retreat, opens in January.
Okay. So it'll actually be when this goes out. It'll be this week when the itineraries will be out for people to go peek at after they listen to this and start talking to their spouses if they need to about like, I'm going to do this thing. Because that was definitely
I love
me.
it.
I live in North Carolina, so like my neighbor is Tennessee, so I'll definitely check out that one for sure.
Oh, what part of North Carolina are you in?
I'm right outside of the Charlotte area, in between like Charlotte and Asheville.
Oh, yeah. So you're going to be near the Tennessee retreat because we have the house on Douglas Lake, which is near Gatlinburg. Gatlinburg, sorry. Yeah. And so I think it's about an hour from Asheville, which my co-host for that retreat is based in Asheville. So she knows all the like stuff going on out there. So she's really helping me with the itinerary.
Gotcha. My accent, when I was at Gatlinburg, like I couldn't help but help you out with my Southern accent. It's like the Southern thing
it.
to do.
I love your accent. It's so
Oh,
beautiful.
thank you. Thank you.
So looking into 2025, now I'm going to make you look a little bit farther. Where do you see YSP Adventures in the next 5 years?
I mean, my dream, okay, I've really thought this through over the last like month. And I think my dream is to be like the leading sober adventure retreat business or company. I don't know if I want to be a company, but like business.
Yeah.
But like I want to really niche out in adventure because I feel like there's a lot of sober retreats out there and they're already so well done. And so and what feels aligned for me is like adventure and excitement. And so maybe introducing some different types of adventures, like maybe rock climbing, ice climbing, like some of the crazy stuff I would love to do. And then just cool places like Switzerland, out like the Swiss Alps, maybe, I don't know, like doing base camp of Mount Everest, like that kind of stuff.
Man, that is so cool.
Yeah. And then continuing to do retreats as well, where we're like based in a house and doing more accessible stuff for people who are still getting their toes wet, but having that range, you know? And then I also would love to start doing some public speaking, sober events around like the power of nature and recovery and using like the retreats and what I observe in the retreats and a lot of anecdotes from their retreats to like fortify research behind this because I'm really curious to learn more about it because I'm like there's something here and I don't know how to like explain it. So yeah, so we'll see. I do want to keep growing. I do want to go international for sure.
I think you'll be there. You'll be the top sober retreat guru, if that's the word you want. I can't think of the right word too because I'm like business company. It's like so much more than that.
Yeah, totally. I mean, and I don't want like there's always going to be room for retreats and people to host retreats in this space. And that's what I love about the sober space. But I would love to be like the go-to for like when you want to have the equivalent of a tequila shot, but in adventure.
Just go ice climbing. No big deal.
Yeah. Like if you want that same level of I don't know, intensity, you come to me.
I love it.
Laura, it was so good to talk to you. You're like a ray of sunshine. So thank you.
Aw, you're so sweet. This is super fun. Thanks for asking me to do this. It really is special. And if there's one thing I could say to anyone who's listening, like, even if you don't go to my retreats, I really recommend everybody out there goes to a retreat of some kind, like some kind of sober retreat. Because not every retreat is the most accessible for everybody. So just like, there's just so many wonderful opportunities out there to connect with people, but there's just something really special about spending time with a group of people for multiple days. Those tiny little moments where you're sipping coffee together, or you're doing workshops together. It's just really, really magical. And so I just tell everyone, like, add it to your bucket list. It doesn't have to be a YSP Adventures one. Just put one on your bucket list and make it part of like your 2-year plan, because it really is magical, and it's going to be a core memory for life.
Yeah, oh, definitely. If people are hesitant about like their skill level or even that they don't feel super solid on their sobriety journey or any of that, what would you say to them about signing up for a retreat?
I mean, like you mentioned, we have people, because a lot of people ask me, like, how much sober time do I need to have to come to a retreat? And like you said, I've had people between a month, like usually like a couple weeks sober, up to like a couple years. Typically, I would say usually people are like in their first year or first 2 years of sobriety, because I think that's usually when you're really looking for connection and community. I do recommend that people have at least like a month of sobriety, because you're going to be traveling in an airport, and there's going to be some like really triggering stuff happening. So I think you might want to have a little bit of a foundation before you go on a retreat. I want to make sure people are financially stable before they do a retreat, because it is quite an investment. And if you feel like your main barrier is like you're scared because it's all new people, say yes. I've had so many people say they almost canceled because they were scared about like being around a new group of people
Yeah.
in a new place. And then they're like, oh my gosh, I'm so glad I said yes, because I just made my like new best friends. So typically like leading up to it is the hardest part, but once you're there, like you're like, oh my gosh, it all just melted away. So I just really recommend doing it if you are seeking more community and connection.
Yes. And I know, I mean, I was freaking out and I was going to co-host with you and I was, oh my God, I'm not going to fit in. None of these ladies are going to like me. They're all going to be super cool and I'm going to be super dumb. So it's,
I feel like that, even I feel like that before every retreat. And I'm like, I'm literally the host. And I'm like, what if they don't like me? What if they like only like Sober Pal, but not Laura, And so I feel like that's like universal experience.
Yeah. And like you said too, and I think it's important when you sign up, you put a little skin in the game by investing your money and say like planning out the time that you're going to take off to do it too. So it's kind of like that forces you into it, because you can plan a meetup locally and you can bail on it so easily because you're just like, but something kind of big like this actually forces you to go. So it's like in a good way, because then when you're there,
For
it's
sure.
just so good. But so how can our listeners connect with you, sign up for a retreat, or just follow you online? Where can we find you?
So you can find me at Your Sober Pal on Instagram and TikTok. And they can also learn more about YSP Adventures at YSP_adventures on Instagram and TikTok. And then, of course, you can visit my website at yoursoberpal.com to learn more about upcoming retreats or anything else we got going on. It's super fun. And then I do want to mention I'm starting a monthly newsletter.
Yay!
If people want to sign up, oh my gosh, this has been a dream of mine for over a year. And it's going to have like all sorts of fun stuff, like an advice column. We're going to do sober scopes, which is like a horoscope based on your sobriety date. It's just got a lot of fun, quirky, like memes, and it's all about making you laugh and feel uplifted and supported in your sober journey. So if you want to get your monthly, it's called Sober Shenanigans for Booze Free Baddie. So sign up.
Oh, that's awesome. Well, you'll have to give me all the links so I can put everything in the show notes too. And then everybody can come find it, because I just want to hear from everybody that they're going on a sober adventure retreat. Just because it was life-changing. I felt like I had kind of hit that 5-year mark and I was just kind of like, sobriety. It's what I do now. And all of a sudden I was like, oh my gosh, this is like being sober is the coolest thing in the entire world. And I just really got reconnected with my sobriety again. So thank you so much. This was super fun.
Super fun. Thank you so much for the invite. This was a blast.
Yes.
Yeah. Thank you, dear. And we will be in your ear next week. Bye, y'all.